Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 128. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. This last weekend was very powerful for me, thanks to my buddy PJ, who started a foundation called Therapeutic Recreation Group, or TRG, with his good, close buddy, Robbie. Robbie and PJ served in the Marine Corps together. Absolute studs, amazing humans. I did not know who Robbie was. Met him this weekend. Their buddy Matt, who helps with the foundation, was unreal. I know PJ from Double Five. His kids trained there. I knew he was an awesome, badass Marine Corps vet, combat veteran. Was actually on the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast as well. Man, he's just an amazing business owner, amazing husband, amazing father, and he has a heart for veterans. And so when he asked me if I wanted to come to this, I said no. I pushed back. I had a work hold on my calendar and wasn't going to put a lot of effort into coming to the event because, to be honest, I've always kind of avoided these things. And PJ, being the man he is, the man of God that he is, kept listening to his heart, kept pushing me in a very good way, just was reaching out, asking, checking in. Hey, man, what's going on with that work hold? Hey, do you still have that work hold? And just kept chipping away until I was able to make it happen. He also had an extra spot, called my best friend, Mike Mitchell, asked him if he wanted to join me, said, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Are you free? You're coming to this with me. Kind of pushed him into it because I figured if I'm going to this, you can come with me. And I know he's avoided these types of things as well in the past, but I'm just thankful that I was able to do this and do this with Mike. So Therapeutic Recreation Group is a 501c3 nonprofit charity organization that helps get our veterans and first responders outdoors. And I can personally tell you that they do much more than that. Looking forward to having PJ and Robbie on the podcast and hopefully their buddy Matt as well to share their stories, their vision of the foundation, why they did this, and to dive deeper into the foundation as a whole. But I wanted to start off this episode to give them the proper respect and shout out because this weekend was absolutely amazing. And it, to be honest, provided healing to a group of warriors in a way that I was not expecting. And I hate saying warriors about myself considering I was there, but that's what they call it. And they seek out veterans that are not broken, which I think is unique because there's a lot of great foundations that are helping veterans, and they wanted to look for veterans through a different lens. And I'll let them discuss that a little bit more. But to be honest, I thought it was just going to be a hunt with my best friend Mike Mitchell. That we're going to get to spend some time out in Breckenridge, Texas, at the M5 Ranch, which was unreal, by the way. And I figured I was going to get to meet some other veterans and learn about PJ's foundation to see if, it was something I wanted to help with and could help with. And, to be able to go hunt and maybe put some meat in the freezer for my family and hang out with Mike and decompress a little bit. But I can tell you, it was more than I expected. And I'll tell you what, man, I'm all in with helping these guys. I told PJ, I'm like, you don't have a foundation, you have a ministry because of what he's created, the men that he partnered with. Um, Tommy and Jonathan are two twin brothers that own a business out in East Texas. Their best friend Travis, they're partners with him as well and some other companies. And these guys help sponsor and raise funds for this charity and for these events, Lucas, to where everything was taken care of. And they partnered with the M5 Ranch, and the guy, Mr. Mack, who owns the ranch, is a believer. They're all believers, and he provides this opportunity. Um, it was just it was unreal, and my just mind was blown at what these guys are doing for veterans and how PJ has been very obedient to the Lord and listening to the Lord in this whole process. And I can tell you that all of the 5 guys that they had there, myself being one of them, came back from this weekend completely different, changed,
Mm.
softened, just lighter in regards to the burden that we all carry. And what was really cool was having civilians there that funded it, that supported it, that connected with us. And just, these these friends of mine, my new friends, right? Being able to sit and talk with them and ask them questions about their business and what they do. I mean, bro, these guys have between their companies that they have, Lucas, they have 800 employees.
Wow.
It's just unreal. And their heart is all about people. Their culture is all about people, taking care of their people, providing their people opportunities. And what these guys have grown is unreal. So I was humbled to be alongside these guys, to learn from these guys, and just create some incredible friendships, but just also to have a lot of fun. Like, so again, huge shout out to Therapeutic Recreation Group. They're on Instagram. Um, and I'm still kind of blown away by the weekend and how incredible it was, and just like the heart that all these guys had. So on Instagram, it's at therapeutic underscore REC_group. And their website is I'm sorry, is it's therapeutic rg.org. So therapeuticrg.org. I know I've had some people reach out and say, "Hey, I'd love to see, like, how can I help? How can I be a part of that? How can I go to something like that?" So reach out to them, hit them up on Instagram, go to their website. And if you have the ability to help that foundation in any way possible, um, I think that would be pretty rad. And uh, I told my wife and a few other people that I want to find a way to definitely help them, because the way they're doing it, Lucas, is just crazy, man. It's just it's unreal. So, anyways, how are you, man? How was church this weekend?
Man,
How's your family doing?
it was great. Family's getting huge. All the boys are growing like weeds, and it's really encouraging. We talked a little bit last week prior to releasing episode 127, just of kind of how we wanted to shape some things, where we wanted some things to go,
Mhm.
and getting to see the pictures, because I knew you were out this weekend doing something. Getting to see the pictures that you and Mike sent to us was really cool. Getting to see just the
Yeah,
experience that y'all had. And if you guys haven't gone and listened to Mike Mitchell's episodes, he's been on here. If you
dude.
go back and you listen to our episode, "The Ghosts of the First LAR,"
Mm,
the stuff that Mike was in and the warrior that he is just pretty inspiring, to be such a
yeah,
quiet and humble dude. So really
yeah.
stoked for y'all to get to have gone on that. And I'm looking forward to trying some of this meat,
Oh, dude,
because some of our mutual
it's
friends
going
have
down.
commented on on that this is some of the best game meat that they've had. So
Yes. Oh, yeah,
I'm
and
looking forward to that.
yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be freaking awesome. So, I like what you did, man, with, Reddit. You sourced, some
Oh
awesome
yeah.
questions and conversations. So,
We took
let's
a
jump into that, man.
yeah, we took a stab into the dark recesses of the internet onto Reddit. Now, I was a little nervous about this, right? To be honest, you
Yeah.
never know what you're going to get on Reddit, and I went in using my real name, which is always fun.
Oh,
So
jeez.
I did. We reached out to some of the people who listen to Jocko's podcast on Reddit and asked them for, hey, you know what? We want questions that you have never heard answered on Jocko's podcast, on the Lead Win podcast, or on the JPPOD podcast. There's a lot of crossover there from the people who listen to those. What are some of the things that y'all want to know, questions you've never heard answered? And we got some really, really great feedback. We got some stuff that I think is pretty interesting. We've got some stuff that is jiu-jitsu related, a lot of leadership stuff. We've got a Bible question. So there's a lot of stuff for us to go at, but we're going to go with what got the most upvotes. Like,
Okay.
what was the most interesting question? And it's a multi-parter having to do with detachment. So the first part is, how do you personally detach? What is your process for detachment?
What I've learned over time is just don't react right away. It doesn't matter what's happening. Now, unless it's like somebody attacking you or if you're in some crazy hostile environment. But even then, like, if you can create a little bit of space to get clarity on what's happening around you, that's what you should absolutely do. Um, and I would take that and apply it to what we're talking about. It's like create some space to collect information, data, so that you can make a good decision. So if that means I'm having a heated conversation with somebody, if I'm on the receiving end of a heated conversation with somebody, I'm not going to say anything. I don't have to respond to anything. I can just listen and then respond when I'm ready to give a good response. And if it's in person, I might tell that person, like, hey, I understand that this is very important to you. And I understand that you're frustrated right now. And I would like to give you the best response possible. And I don't have that right now. Can we talk about this again tomorrow? Or can I connect with you next week? Can I give you a call tomorrow after I think about these things and us have a just a good conversation? I'm going to try to break contact. So if you're in a gunfight, you're getting ambushed, you're in a really bad situation, your goal is to break contact, right? So you return fire and you break contact. Now, in an argument, you don't want to return fire by arguing and pushing back to them. The return fire would be address the concerns, the frustrations, validate who they are because they're sitting there talking with them. Don't dismiss them. Don't be disrespectful. Don't try to, stir the pot, and just disengage and come back to it if you need to. And sometimes I'll disengage with people and then set boundaries and not re-engage um, immediately. And, with those boundaries comes parameters and expectations of, what's expected, and then we'll go from there. There's a lot of power in just listening, receiving, processing, and then responding when you think you need to, when it's the right time to respond. So for so what does that mean sometimes? Sometimes it's just taking a breath, listening, not getting emotional, not taking it personal. Another time sometimes is I'll do this, and I stole this from Jocko. And for those that are watching on YouTube, they'll see I sat there and I put literally my hand to my face with my finger over my lips as a reminder for me to shh, don't say anything, don't talk. Um, yeah, there you go. Right? It's just it's
Modeling
subtle,
it,
but
yeah.
it helps, right? It helps me not respond, not get emotional, and it just reminds me there's power in the pause, which is detaching. Another thing is, man, I might go for a walk or a ruck or a run, or I might go work out, or I might go train jujitsu. If I get some crazy email or some crazy text message or some crazy voicemail or get off of a crazy phone call, I'm gonna go work out. I'm gonna go burn off some steam, some energy, think about things. Uh, you know, Probably call somebody, get a little bit of wisdom and advice from somebody else who's not emotionally connected to it. And that's why I also will choose who I call and talk to, because I wanna have some detached perspectives and not somebody that's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, screw that, blah, blah, blah," and like feed into the frustration I had. So I'll be smart with, I would say, I guess, the counsel that I'm seeking. Um, but yeah, just pause, assess what's happening, and then break contact.
So the second part of the question is, how do you know when to detach? Like, do you have a thing that you're looking for? Is there a trigger that is kind of set off where you're like, okay, this is the moment when I'm going to detach?
I mean, I'm pretty sure, like Jocko has said this before, but I want to detach all the time because I need to stay detached so that I don't get emotional, I don't get sucked in, I don't get frustrated, I don't lose my temper. So I'm gonna try to do that all the time. Something I've been trying to work on is being comfortable with not having to respond to somebody right away, which helps me with not interrupting people and not cutting them off and jumping in at the end of the conversation. It allows me to think a little bit more and then just respond with logic and not emotion. Um, so yeah, we should be doing that all the time. Now, the level of detachment is going to vary based off of that scenario and situation that you're trying to navigate and work through. So, the time that goes into that calculus will be dependent upon the severity of the conversation and or what's actually happening at that time. So you should be doing it all the time.
So there's not just like a specific word, like if somebody says, what was the thing that Tom Hanks used to say on Saturday Night, symbolism, like as soon as you hear that, like it's your safe word for detaching, or like
No,
that's the case. There's nothing like that.
no.
The
Now
goal
I
is to be constantly in a state
yes,
of so how do you then balance
practice.
like detachment and engagement?
It doesn't mean that I'm void of emotions and void of responses. It just means that I'm not responding right away. Not everybody deserves a response from you. Not everybody deserves your time, your energy, because if they're toxic and they're, just trying to pick a fight because they have something going on themselves, which is unfortunate, I don't have to engage. I don't have to be sucked into an argument. I don't have to be sucked into, you know, whatever it is. Now, I'm going to be respectful and I'll let them know like, "Hey, you know what? I don't think this conversation is going in a good direction. You know, I'll get back to you tomorrow. Let me think about what you said because you have some very interesting perspectives that I know are valid to you and I would like to figure those out. I don't have them right now and I don't want to cause more friction between us by us just arguing. So, I'm sorry. I'm going to go. I'll hit you up tomorrow. I'll hit you up next week."
Right on.
Also, for myself, I have to be aware of my own red flags. So if I'm listening to somebody or if I'm in a situation where I'm starting to get frustrated, I have to be aware of my own red flags and other people's red flags. If somebody, obviously, if they're red faced, angry, clenching their fists, clenching their teeth, you know, cussing a lot, yelling, like, okay, that's a red flag. Disengage, disengage, disengage. If somebody is being manipulative and, trying to stir the pot and cool, disengage, disengage. If they're trying to just get a response from me, disengage. Um, my wife, when she gets like frustrated, she'll get like like frustrated or mad. She'll get like this red blotchiness on her chest and neck, and I know that I need to help de-escalate that situation, whether it's something I created or somebody else has created. For
Yeah.
me, if I start to stutter or mix up my words a lot because my speech impediment from my past steps like starts to kick in, I need to probably disengage from that conversation or that situation. And so there's a lot of different red flags that we all have. Just being aware of them and just practicing a little bit of silence and pausing will do absolute wonders because it allows you to think and process before you respond.
And so
Also,
yeah,
saying, "Hey, I'm sorry you're frustrated right now. I'm sorry you're mad. Sorry, there's a little bit of delay on this, so I just cut you off and I apologize.
you're good.
But man, if somebody's super pissed off, I'm like, "Hey, I'm sorry that you're frustrated right now." That usually tends to help a little bit. Does it fix it? No. But is it a step in the right direction, apologizing? Absolutely.
You've talked a little bit about your speech impediment before, and since we're in a Q&A, I'm gonna throw one of my own in there because you do speak really well when you're on the podcast. I've heard you on several different podcasts other than, the 120 this is what, 128
This is
episodes now that we've done
128,
together,
yeah.
right? So a couple of 100 hours that we've recorded together. And on top of that, seeing you speak at Echelon Front events, seeing you do keynotes, what was the if you don't mind unpacking, like, what was the speech impediment that you dealt with when you were younger, and how did you overcome that? Because this is something I've heard mentioned, but we've never, like,
Yeah.
gotten into.
Well, my parents were awesome. They identified it when I was in preschool and kindergarten. We're talking with my teachers about it, and they got me into speech therapy. So I did speech therapy all throughout elementary school, and it was, I would just stutter sometimes, I'd mix up my words, and there was just certain words I could not pronounce. I'd have to ask my mom. My mom knows. I think it was like there's certain sounds that I could not say, and
Mm,
so I just had to train my brain how to work through it. But
right
my
on.
parents were super encouraging.
Yeah.
They would help me afterwards, and they would help me when I was, you know, a little nervous to speak in front of people, or um, I remember I was in junior high, and I had not seen one of my friends from elementary school in a couple years. Brianna Petty, we were really close, like growing up, really close in elementary school, and then also in high school, and still to this day, like she got a beautiful family. And there's a few times I'd go back home and get together as friends, and would see her and some of the other friends, and she's just like one of those like awesome friends that I had growing up. And she was, she's taller than me. She was always taller than me. And I remember, I was really short in school growing up, and one of the smaller kids. And I remember it was, man, I want to say 8th grade. We were at the Sunrise Mall, and I saw her and a few other friends, and I was sitting there talking with them. And the whole time we're talking, like my head was just down. Like my head was just down. And when we like broke away, said goodbye, gave her hugs, friends went in different directions. I remember walking away, and I remember my dad like pulled me aside. He was like, "Hey, bud, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, your head was just down the whole time. You're like, you weren't making eye contact. Like, is everything okay?" And I was just embarrassed because of how little I still was, but also when I get nervous, I would, speaking to other people, I would kind of mix up my words sometimes and stutter. And so because I did that occasionally, I was embarrassed, and I just had my head down. And I remember my dad just encouraging me to be like, "Hey, it's not a big deal. That's your friend. Nobody cares. And, you just have to work on that, and you have to work on not being nervous. And when you're not nervous, you won't stutter as much." And I remember that moment of just realizing like, "Okay, cool. Yeah, this is something I've just gotta be, um, intentional with working on, and just get better." And also, if it's something that I know well and I have confidence, I don't stutter. I don't mix up my words.
That's pretty
So,
wild how that works, man.
it's
Which that
crazy.
does yeah, that does kinda lead us into this second question is how do you prepare for presentations, and how do you know when you're ready?
So when I
Because
first came
you just said the practice helps.
Yeah, I was gonna digitally slap you if you said practice makes perfect.
I
'Cause
wasn't.
Yep. Um, practice makes permanent, not perfect. So, that's why we have to be
Boom.
careful and intentional with what we do for training and practice. So, when I was given the opportunity to come on board Echelon Front 9.5 years ago, I understood the opportunity. I took it very serious. I was able to go to the very first muster. Then I was able to watch Jocko give a half-day workshop. I was able to watch Leif give a keynote with a Q&A session, Jocko do a keynote with a, little breakout group of leaders, and at the muster and the full day workshop that Jocko did with LA County Fire, and Leif for that keynote with Q&A, and Jocko's keynote with the breakout session of Q&A, I took copious amounts of notes. Like, the amount of notes I took was unreal. I recorded on my phone the audio recording Leif's keynote. I did the same thing for Jocko's keynote and for the Q&A times that Leif did and Jocko did. I had probably about, from the very first muster, probably 7 to 8 pages of notes. I had multiple pages of notes from Jocko's full day workshop with LA County Fire, and I just would study those notes. I would listen to the audios, um, probably 3 to 4 times a day. So you're talking 3 to 4 hours of listening to their keynotes, and then when I got copies of their keynote, presentations, the slide deck, I would listen to them and click along with, the slides to what they were saying, and I would do that for a couple hours a day, And then when I created my own slide deck and I would go through my talking points with my slide deck that was very similar to theirs, I would practice that 4 to 6, sometimes 8 hours a day total. I
Wow.
would do it in the morning, in the evening, and when it came time for me to give my first presentation to Leif and Jocko over Skype, um, it was like an hour to the mark, like to the mark, an hour, and then we did some mock Q&A, and I remember afterwards, Leif said that he was very proud of me, that him and Jocko could tell that I had put in a lot of work and I had done a great job on my presentation. And he said, "We have zero doubt that you can go and do this in front of a client and represent what we do." And shortly thereafter, I did my first keynote. It was a 90-minute keynote with Q&A, and it was a series of other speakers. And it was December 14th, 2017. I'm sorry, 2016, December 14th, 2016, out in Denver, Colorado. And I remember showing up, and I woke up earlier than I should have so that I could go through my keynote twice. So just an hour because I didn't have the Q&A session. It was a 60-minute keynote with 30-minute Q&A. So I went through my brief twice. And I'd also done it the night before where I did a full rehearsal twice. So I flew to Denver, Colorado, got to my hotel, did grab something to eat, ran through my keynote 2 times back to back, woke up early, did the same thing, showed up early, checked out the venue, made sure everything was gonna be good for my connections, and ran through my slides 2 more times while these other speakers were talking before I needed to go get set up after the break. And, I remember taking a picture of all the other speakers, and I was the only one with letters not added after my name. And there's, doctors, guys with PhDs, MBAs, all these things, and I remember sending that to Jocko and Leif, and Jocko responds and says, "Get used to it. You're gonna do awesome." And so I still like, Amanda knows I'll talk to her and she'll be like, and we gauge our evenings based off of when I'm going to be working on my slides. And I still go through all my slides. We have pre-event calls and I take notes on those pre-event calls and I will make slight tweaks to my slide deck based off of the calls that I have with clients. So we all do that. We customize our slide decks and our briefs, more specifically, we customize our briefs to what our clients are working through and what they're wanting to obtain from the trainings. And I will go through my slide deck tonight when we get done with this. I'm going to go knock out a workout, get dinner, um, talk to my family, go through my slide deck tomorrow morning. I'll show up an hour early before the event kicks off. Make sure everything's good to go for AV connections, and I will do a quick run through and just look through. I will make sure all my slides look good up on the screen. So I'll click through every slide, read through every slide to make sure I'm not missing anything, no grammatical errors, spelling errors, anything like that. And then while I'm doing that, I'm getting the flow in my brain fresh, and then I'll go engage with the client, hang out, and then right before I go, I pull up the slide deck on my phone because I have everything synced from my laptop to my phone, and I will pull up that, slide deck and look through all the slides about 10 to 15 minutes before I speak, and then I close that out. I text Amanda, getting ready to turn off my phone. "I love you. I'll text you during lunch or break," or whatever it is applicable to that day, and then I turn off my phone. And then I just tell myself, "It's time. Activate," because that's something that Jocko used to tell me all the time when I was a role player and he wanted me to turn it up and or do whatever he needed me to do, he would say on the radio, JP activate. And there's times also get text from him, JP activate, just as a nice little reminder. And so that's what I do. That's how I prep. And
So
then I always do a debrief internally afterwards. And then I do one with the client. And then I update notes for that client based off the debrief that I have for myself and that the client has.
So how do you know that you've rehearsed enough? Like when or do you ever get to the point where you're like, you know what, I'm ready for this, or do you just keep going as often as you can until the time comes where
Keep
it's
going.
go time regardless of whether you're ready or not?
Keep going, because if you think you're good, then you're not, because that's when you allow complacency to creep in. Now, there's a difference between knowing that you're capable and thinking that you're perfect. I know I'm not perfect. I know I'll never be perfect. But there is a point where it's like you just got to go. Bust that door, get in there, open the door, see what's on the other side. And so if we try to make things perfect, then we'll never take action because we'll never find perfection. Sorry, man. Keep coughing. So there's a balance that you have to figure out on your own of knowing, am I capable of delivering good content? Yes or no? And if you're being honest and doing an honest assessment, you'll know. And if you're like, I'm not sure, then you're probably not good. Now, the thing you have to be aware of is, are you being hypercritical to yourself and self-deprecating to the point where you're holding yourself back from actually taking action? That's what you got to figure out for yourself. But here's the deal. Somebody said this today at the hunt. Nobody's ever developed a patent for version 1. Because one of the
Fair
guys,
point.
one of the guys, um, created this awesome setup to lift huge animals onto the back of a truck, because the animal that I got, you needed a winch to get it up onto the back of a vehicle. It wasn't going to be 2 to 3 guys lifting it. It would have been like six-ish, maybe 7 guys trying to get that up, and it would have been just a pain. And so he created this thing, and it was awesome. This guy Cutter at the M5 Ranch, awesome young stud in his 20s, managing the ranch. My guide Sunny, she's 22, and she's helping assist managing that ranch, running the ranch. And these two are incredible humans. Um, and he had what he created was awesome. It needed a few little tweaks, and he was just kind of frustrated, and all the guys were like, they're like, "Bro, this is awesome. Like, this is legit. Hey, make this little tweak, make this adjustment. It'll be good. Hey, do this." Boom. And like, everybody was giving good constructive feedback. And one of those business owners I was telling you about is either Jonathan or Thomas. They're twins, so I don't remember which one of them said it.
Fair enough.
But they were like, they're fabricators. They own businesses that do all these awesome things. And their buddy Kevin, I'm sorry, Kevin, who has a business with them as well, another one of their many businesses. They're all very brilliant when it comes to business and ideas and just ingenuity. And they, it was one of them that said that. They're like, nobody's ever put a patent on version 1. And they were just being encouraging to this kid. It was like, hey, man, what you got here is awesome. There's some tweaks.
Yeah, and it's important to remember those types of things because it's easy to have this feeling that just because you see somebody that's successful, you feel like they were either born into it or they had overnight success or things like that.
Yeah.
You know, one of our favorite comedians is a lady named Leanne Morgan, who is now, I mean, when she really broke onto the scene, she was in her 50s, and everybody was like, "Oh, she's this overnight success," and she's like, "I was doing comedy, for the last 30 years and
Yeah.
like going to clubs while I was trying to raise kids, and I would sneak away to try to do open mics or I was doing these other
That's
sets. Like just because
crazy,
you
bro.
heard about me last night doesn't mean that I was this overnight success." And I think that it's easy for us in the social media age when everything's happening so rapidly and you don't see all of the years of toil that somebody put into a cool piece of gear that they've created. Instead, what you get is all out of nowhere, you get bombarded with advertisements about that cool piece of gear. And you're like, oh, well, this just popped up overnight because all of a sudden it's everywhere and you weren't aware of it before, when the reality is, there's years of work and toil behind it. One of the other questions that we got that I think is pretty interesting. I want us to kind of hop a little bit. This is a leadership question. Is how do you lead a team that is disillusioned and burnt out? And the example that they use
Hmm.
are people that work in the UK health industry, doctors and nurses. And I think the UK, I don't know much specifically about their stuff, but I've got a lot of friends here in the US that are nurses.
Mhm.
And right now, we're at a place where those skilled workers are just, they're incredibly high demand and incredibly
Yeah.
short supply, right? So, how do you lead a team that is disillusioned and burnt out?
Um, well, how do you lead a team that's disillusioned and burned out? Is there a difference though between disillusioned and burned out though? Those seem like two different things to me, and the way they phrase it as if it's one. So is this two different answers that I need to be giving?
You know what? I think it could be, right? Because a disillusioned team, maybe in this situation, it is both. Even though I do think
Okay.
you're right, because there's a difference between a person who's burnt out and a person who's disillusioned. A person who's disillusioned thinks things aren't the way that they are, or
Mhm.
had a different idea and expectation of things whenever they got involved in it. And a person who's burnt out, maybe a person who understands exactly how things are and are supposed to be, but is just at a place where they're hitting a wall, whether it
Mm.
be energy, whether
Because
it be
they are
mental
burned out?
focus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Disillusion
because of
could
those
come
things.
from being burned out. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I see that.
yeah, they can feed each other quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question. I wish, man, it would be cool if we could set it up to where we could have guests somehow join us live for Q&A on the podcast.
Oh, we definitely have the potential for that.
I wonder if our guests would like to do that.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I don't know, mix it up a
I
little bit
Yeah,
because I'd like I would
I
like
like
a
the
little
fact that I
more
have veto power.
clarification on this,
Yeah.
just a little more kinda like what we do not kind of, like what we do on Extreme Ownership Academy,
Yep.
the live trainings that we do at Echelon Front. Those are live trainings that we do every Wednesday, and you have the ability to ask questions and then come off mute and add more clarification if they get to your question. So
Yeah,
I
get a
would
little
love to do
extra.
that. I would love to do that right now. But so burnout. So a few things that come to my mind is you have to give your people rest. And
Mm,
I know people also are running businesses and organizations, and you've got to keep the machine moving forward, but you have to ask yourself at what cost? Tactical versus strategic. Are we tactically winning but strategically losing because we're grinding our people out every day and they're working super hard? But the strategic loss is they get so burnt out that they make a mistake, they kill a patient, they make a wrong decision on a job site. They get killed on a job site because they're so tired and fatigued from running, 27 days straight trying to get these power lines installed and put up on this big project, and somebody makes a mistake, it doesn't clip in and falls down. Like, these are things that happen because people get tired and fatigued, they get burnt out, and that's when mistakes make. So the tactical thing is like, no, we got to keep moving. We can't take a day off. We can't be behind schedule. Okay. At what cost though? And you have to ask yourself, what's the cost to your people? So you have to give your people breaks, and you have to also ask for breaks. You have to tell people, hey, you know what? I need a break. I'm burnt out. I'm not making good decisions. It's not safe for me to keep running at this pace. I had to do that with Seth one time in Ramadi. We had been operating for 21 days straight, just crazy, insane tempo. And I had to tell him, hey, boss, if we keep running at this tempo, somebody's going to get hurt or killed. And he
mm,
recognized that. He goes, yep, okay, you're right. And we took a few days. Um, And the disillusion could come from burnout, and that's what I'm assume that they're talking about. And if
yeah.
not, let us know in the comments, wherever this is posted that you're watching and reading. Um, and it's the same thing. If people are disillusioned, because they're exhausted and worn out. Like, as a leader, you have to step in and give people rest. I I know I've used this analogy before about sled dogs. Sled dogs are incredible. The term "you're a sled dog" in the SEAL teams was a positive statement because it meant that you're a hard worker and you're just going to grind it out and you're going to keep pushing forward. The thing with sled dogs though is they need guidance and they need breaks because if you don't give a sled dog a rest, they will run until they die. And it's like, okay, cool. So you gained some extra ground today with your crew, but they died. They burnt out. They're no longer capable of moving forward. So now your progression has completely come to a halt. And as individuals, we have to be aware of these things within our spouses, within our kids, and within ourselves. If you don't take time to rejuvenate and refresh yourself, you'll have nothing to give to the people around you. And that's what I got from this weekend with
Mhm.
TRG. That's what PJ provides veterans. And it wasn't like I was burnt out and getting ready to crash and burn. But I'll tell you what, man, a little recharge once in a while, let's freaking go.
Yeah.
And
One of the
it
go
was
ahead.
crazy what God did for my heart to prepare me this weekend, um, to prepare me for stuff I was working through today. I actually worked through them this weekend
Yeah.
before today came about, and I was like, "Cool, no factor, good to go. Already know. Holy Spirit prompted me. Already worked
Yeah.
through some stuff."
Yeah, there's a buddy of mine named James Carberry. I think we've talked about him before. He owns a company called Sweet Fish Media, and one of the things he's really big on when they're in like super busy seasons is knowing his staff.
Yes.
And he has a questionnaire that everybody fills out as a new hire of like, what's your favorite candy? What's your favorite book? What's your favorite childhood memory? Do you have a favorite sports team? Like whatever that is. And so they fill out this questionnaire and it's this massive spreadsheet, and then they kind of forget about it. And he keeps all those so that whenever they're going through like a massive season where the work's really heavy and all of that stuff, he'll go through everybody's spreadsheets and figure out like, okay, this is a book that this person likes, or here's a quote that really
Mhm.
inspired this person or whatever. And they'll place, they'll come into their office or they'll come into the workspace or whatever, and he'll have just little things placed around them that have that. Or they'll, maybe their favorite baseball team is, the Padres or whatever. And I'm thinking of one of his employees in particular.
Mhm.
And so, he's working from remote in San Diego, so he just gets an alert on his phone. It's like, "Hey, man, sorry that you've had to work late the last 3 days. It's going to be another couple of long weeks, but tomorrow night you get tickets to the Padres game." And
Dude,
so there are
so
those,
awesome.
yeah. So there are like these little things that sometimes they have a cost associated with them, sometimes they don't, but they're things that you can do that even in the midst of like these really heavy times of working, things that you can do where you can show appreciation for people and give them a little moment where they're like, you know what, yeah, I'm feeling kind of burnt out, but we're all in this together, and it brings kind of
Yeah.
that camaraderie back.
You know who's
um
good at that? Leif Babin, Jamie Cochran. The 2 of
really.
them are, yeah, and Jen Tarantino, like, those 3 are unreal, and big shocker,
Yeah.
the people on their team are all really good at those things now too. Like, the little Christmas gift that I got from Echelon Front, it was crazy how specific it was to me. It was
Yeah.
awesome, bro. It was just so thoughtful, um, and yeah, those little things. Hey, you know what? Echelon Front takes care of me. They pay me well. They give me this great opportunity. I have, you know, um, a sense of fulfillment. I know that I'm part of the winning team. I know that what we do at Echelon Front helps people. And I know that if I ever needed anything, Jocko, Leif, they got me covered.
Yeah.
They will, you know what I mean? Like, I know those things. And then whoever put together this little package brought me so much joy when I was looking through those things. And I was like, man, this is awesome because it was thoughtful and they were intentional.
That's pretty rad. This is another question from the same, I would say from the same guy, but these usernames are absolutely insane. And for fear that they are something
Yeah.
I shouldn't
Nope.
read aloud, I'm gonna avoid
No.
them.
Yeah, do not.
But same person says, how does leadership change in a world of AI and AI agents? I do think this is an interesting modern leadership question. We had a friend of ours that nearly his entire workforce was replaced by
Mm.
AI bots. And so now he's managing code instead of managing people. So what does leadership look like in a world of AI and AI agents?
Well, he's still having to interact with other humans, so nothing changes. Now
Yeah.
the depth of his span and control has changed. Um, the amount of people he's interacting with and managing has changed, but he still has his leadership that he's, communicating to supporting, also helping them win, leading up. There's other people that he has to communicate with, so leadership does not change. We just have to adapt to the changes around us in regards to, the scenarios that we're a part of. There's nothing new under the sun. Leadership is leadership. These principles have been around since the day of time, and they're not going to change. Now, how we apply them is going to change based off of the industry and whatnot. But, you know, it's unfortunately some people are going to have to change industries and go find something else, which is why it's really important that we as humans have versatility when it comes to skill sets, the ability to adapt and be willing to learn something new. My brother's going through that right now, changing careers. You know, he's, been looking for work out on the East Coast, hasn't been able to find what he wants. And he's like, all right, cool. Guess what? I'm going to have to change. I'm going to have to change what I'm doing. I'm going to have to change my environment. And he's not playing the victim card. He's taking ownership over his life and, you know, looking for new careers to go into.
What book has had the greatest impact on you and why? And you can't say the Bible. I'm adding that you can't say the Bible because I knew what was on the tip of your tongue. So what book other than the Bible has had the greatest impact on you and why?
Can I give a few answers?
I'll allow it.
All right, cool. Especially since this isn't live with our guests, they
Yeah,
can't
right.
restrict me.
Yep.
And it's our podcast and we can talk about
Mhm.
whatever we
Yeah,
want.
whatever we want. Yeah, because
Um,
there are some categories where, like, it might be the greatest thing in this category that had an impact on you would be different from others. So, yeah, I'll give you a few.
um, Extreme ownership, because at that point in my life, I needed that wake up call that I couldn't play the victim card anymore. I couldn't blame everybody else. And I had to recognize that all the relationships in my life that had been damaged was because of me. So, extreme ownership shifted my mindset. Dichotomy of leadership taught me to think differently in regards to all the different environments and remind me of what I, used to do in the SEAL teams. Um, man, Jocko's book, Leadership Strategy and Tactics, the field manual for leadership is such an incredible tool, um, that has had a very, very big impact. And then also this book I read, like when I first got out of the military and I was doing sales, from rock bottom to rock star by Ryan Blair. And that book, I read it multiple times. I gave it to multiple people. I buy it and give it to people. Rock bottom to rock star. And that was a book that I really enjoyed and applied to my mindset for this guy went from in gangs and a really hard life to building and selling a business for um like an 8-figure business. And I think he even sold a 9-figure business as well over time. Um awesome book. And then also um Wild at Heart was really good. When I found out that Hayden's mom was pregnant, somebody suggested that book to me, and I read that book in one weekend. No, I wasn't. Yeah, it was over the
Oh,
weekend. I was in Louisville, Kentucky for a 2-week training block, and I got the book and I read it in 1 weekend. And it was just a very encouraging book to me. And there's a lot of other books we can keep diving into, but since they said,
since they
we're
said
way,
one, we'll give them 5.
I'll give them 5.
There we go. There's a
You're welcome. Well, those
top
are all,
5.
but that's like
Yeah.
different seasons of my life. And you took away the Bible, so that was rude and disrespectful.
Yeah, because that's a book for every season of life, man, and that is the one that, if you want to have a book that will completely change and impact your life, there isn't one better than that, but
Also, another good reminder of everything we teach at Echelon Front, Need to Lead by Dave Burke was
oh,
awesome.
yeah.
And you know what? I can't wait to read Rob Jones's book. So it's just like all the like, and I know that book is incredible. Everyone I've has told me that they've read it is incredible. I'm waiting to read it. I'm just trying to be more disciplined at starting a book and finishing a book. So um, and I started another book. My pastor Tyron, I'm sorry, one of my pastors Tyron, who is also on this podcast, recommended a book to me. We were talking, and it's a book that he reads once a year, and it's called Spiritual Leadership by J. Oswald Sanders.
Ethan May also reads that book once a year, and he and I remember when he was here,
Yep.
we geeked out about it because I also read that book once a year.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Phenomenal book.
I can't put it down. I also did the audio version of it, and I'm like,
Nice.
oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, that's awesome stuff, man.
Cool. What do we have? One more or a few more or one more for the night?
Well, I've got several more, but let's do. You want to do wrap it up with a leadership question or a jiu-jitsu question?
Let's go jiu-jitsu.
All right, let's
We've done
get
leadership.
in.
We'll do more leadership.
Yeah, we got more leadership stuff to come, and this next question, I think, with the leadership stuff, we could probably make an episode out of. So I'm stoked about that one. So
Cool.
come back and you'll get the answer to that. Gi versus no gi. Do you train different, or do you use your no gi game in gi training?
Well, I train primarily gi because the gym that I'm at, Double Five in Highlands Village, Formiga is a gi guy. Before I moved to Texas, it was almost all no gi. Um, when I was training and fighting MMA, I only did no gi because that applies to MMA, and it was jiu-jitsu geared towards my MMA style, um, which wasn't very effective. I mean, I had a good record, but I wasn't a great fighter, if that makes sense. I never was going to go high level pro. I was never disillusioned of that. Maybe had some desires, but never disillusioned of where I would be. Um, I really like no gi. It's a lot faster. I like gi because as I get older, I like to learn that game. So I primarily train gi, but I do like no gi, and I will throw down no gi if the opportunity arises. And I, I think my grips don't get as tired, as fatigued as a lot of other guys in the gi, um, because I don't grip the gi all the time. I use a lot of my no gi training for my grips and pushes and pulls, and then use my grips on the gi when I need when I need to.
Question number 2 then about jiu-jitsu is this, and I'm asking you this because I'm trying to lure you into controversy. So
Yeah,
congratulations.
get it, girl.
Self-defense versus sport jiu-jitsu. Has the sport gotten too far from its roots?
Meaning, like, which one do I prefer? I
Well,
prefer.
has jiu-jitsu, because this is a big question that's being asked in on internets right now. Internets wants to know. Jiu-jitsu started off as self-defense. Sport
Yes.
jiu-jitsu and self-defense jiu-jitsu have very different ways in which they're practiced and what their end goal is, right?
Mhm.
Like one is geared towards points, but you might not do the same thing in order to score points that you would do if you were trying to prevent yourself from
Oh,
getting
for
punched in
sure.
the
Yeah,
face,
big
right?
difference.
So has the has the sport of jiu-jitsu gotten too far away from the roots of jiu-jitsu as a self-defense to where the two are now almost like mutually exclusive? Do you do just sports jiu-jitsu, or do you do just self-defense jiu-jitsu? Or is there a place where they're both applicable?
Yeah,
Or
I
have they
think
gone to two completely separate lanes?
well, I would like to officially on the record say that as a newer brown belt who does not compete, who is not a high level practitioner and competitor, who also does not train regularly, does not train as much as I should because priorities don't allow for it with travel and work. My opinion should probably not be taken into consideration. But since you asked me this question, my response would be who cares? They're both awesome. If you want to train jujitsu for self defense, then find a good self defense jujitsu gym. But guess what? You can apply what's being taught in jujitsu for self defense as long as you have a little bit of common sense, as long as you have a good gym you're training at, and as long as you ask good questions to your professor and you say, hey, I really like the vibe of this gym. I know this is a big competition gym. I'm looking for self defense. Hey, once a week, could I ask you some questions about what applies to self defense and what's sports? And your professor should say yes. And if they say no, then go find another gym.
Yeah.
Um, I think sports jujitsu has made jujitsu awesome. It has made it to where it's now on UFC and people are getting paid good money to compete in jujitsu. And it makes it to where it's a sport that people want to watch. So I think sports jujitsu is awesome. I love watching it. I love doing it. And I'm going to compete this year. So,
I'm stoked about that.
yeah, well, at least one of us is.
But I do think, this it's interesting that you would first say that, your opinion doesn't matter in a sense, right?
I
But
it
there are some
Yeah.
things that, like you say, going to a place where you say, "Hey, I want to do this," or "My focus is this. I want to do those things." One of the things that's great about these gyms, like, using our gym as an example, like Double Five. If you go in and you tell your professor, "Hey, listen, you're teaching lasso guard today," or some kind of weird thing that doesn't seem like it's going to be super applicable, and you're like, "Hey, I really want to focus on, jujitsu as self-defense, not sport jujitsu." They'll say, "Okay, well, cool. Do the drills with everybody else,
Yeah,
and then when it comes time to, like, do your rolls,
then don't do those
then,
things.
well, yeah, either one, don't do those things, or two, when you come back and ask your coach, hey, what do I need to work on? They're not going to tell you to work on, your De La Hiva guard, or
Yeah.
whatever. They're going to say, hey, okay, so, your closed guard is you need to do X, Y, and Z. And I know you don't want to do, these kind of things that are sports stuff. So just focus on these
But
other
what's
basic things, and they'll coach you in the proper way. And that's
Yeah,
one of the things that's great about having a high level coach.
but what's crazy is like, okay, do I wanna be pulling guard and going, deep half on the street? No, because 'cause I'm in a good spot for somebody to smash my face in. But let's
Hmm.
say I get knocked down and I'm on my back and you're coming at me and I use my feet to push you back, and for whatever reason, you pass my feet and you're in my side. Well, guess what? What you've learned in sports jujitsu to re-guard and or get half guard with lasso guard, and you could sweep that person because you grab their wrist and you weave your foot in, or you grab their sleeve because they're wearing a long sleeve shirt or a jacket, and you could actually hold on to their hands, holding on to the sleeves of their jacket or their wrist, and put your feet in their biceps for spider guard and push them and keep them away from you. Guess what? Sports jujitsu just became self defense.
Yeah.
Because if I'm holding your wrist and your sleeves and have my feet in your biceps and pushing them back, guess what you can't do? Oh, you
Punch me in
can't
the
punch
face.
me. You can't headbutt me. You know, you you're probably not gonna be able to kick me. You might be able to knee my butt, okay. But, I mean, I'm being serious, like, you're not gonna be able to
Yeah.
do much. And if I like James Gonzalez, his lasso guard is freaking annoying. So if he was on the street and got knocked down and somebody came in and he grabbed their sleeve, put his foot in there, he's going to freaking sweep you. And if you try to stop it, he's going to separate your shoulder. So therefore, guess what? He's going to separate your shoulder and then get the sweep and be able to neutralize the threat by staying on top of you or breaking contact and running away. So yes, sports jiu-jitsu can be applied in self-defense.
There you have it. So the question is yes and no. And
it's whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Just go train.
I think I was going to say, I think the real answer is go train. Yep.
Go train and find something you enjoy. And the other thing that's cool about jiu-jitsu, it's community and it's a workout and it's going to keep you healthy because it gives you something to do. You're not going to want to be smoking cigarettes all day. You're not going to want to be getting hammered all the time. You know, I know a lot of people that stop drinking and or reduce the amount of drinking, stop doing drugs, stop smoking because they enjoyed being around the people at the jiu-jitsu gym and they wanted to actually progress and do well.
There you go. Well, thank you guys so much for participating in this Q&A. If you want to continue to be part of the conversation, maybe look for us on Reddit. Maybe we'll drop something on there periodically like this. We get some more questions to answer that we'll do sometime in an episode in the near future. If not, go to Instagram. We are on Instagram. JP's at JP Dinnell. I'm at Lucas Pinkard. And you can check out the at JP Dinnell podcast. Since March has begun, we're dropping some new reels on there as well as shorts on YouTube and the videos on Spotify where you can watch videos of this podcast as well as on YouTube. There's all kinds of ways to find this. Share it with your friends. If we answered a question that you have been wondering, when are they going to answer it? Let us know. Hey, thanks for answering the question. Or if you've got one that maybe we didn't get to, or how about this? You got a follow-up question that I didn't ask. Drop it in a comment. Let us know. We'd be happy to answer it. And this kind of stuff is what adds value to you guys. And it helps us a lot because we're thinking through these scenarios that are applicable for y'all. So thanks so much for sending in the questions. If you are wanting to get on the path with the stuff that's happening with Echelon Front, you heard JP mention extreme ownership, dichotomy of leadership. You heard him talk about the need to lead. Rob Jones's new book that just recently came out. We're going to have Rob back on the podcast to talk about that here sometime soon. You heard him talk about the Extreme Ownership Online Academy. All of those things are things that you can access. Go to echelonfront.com. Check out all of the things that are happening there. Go to the events tab and you can see when you can participate in an FTX. Go to the muster, which is happening here in Nashville in just a few weeks, and be in person with these guys, these men and women who are doing this training that is applicable to every aspect of your life. Sit down with them, take your copious amounts of notes like JP did, but also stand in line, wait the 10 minutes that it's going to take, and have your question answered by the people who literally wrote the book on it. So check all that stuff out. JP mentioned the Wednesday Extreme Ownership Academy calls. That's another place where you can ask some of these questions. That's one of the premium things that are offered to the Extreme Ownership Academy subscribers. So go check out echelonfront.com. If you want one of those instructors to work with your company, shoot an email to info@echelonfront.com and they'll get you set up with some of that stuff. We do have links in the show notes for those individual assessments and stuff that we've talked about for the last 2 weeks. So make sure that you check those out as well. To take care of yourself, go to firstinnutrition.com/JPPOD. They're offering 4 free weeks of nutrition coaching to anybody who listens to the podcast. And we're not getting anything out of that other than making sure that it helps to keep you on the path. Jonathan and Ann Montgomery have done a phenomenal job of making all of the people who come to them better versions of themselves by getting them in the shape that they need to be in, by helping them control their nutrition, getting them on the path and to the places that they want to be. So make sure that you go check out firstinnutrition.com/JPPOD. Go look at littlecattle.co with all the amazing beef tallow products that they've got. If you need apparel printing, go check out On The Path Printing. You can follow them at On The Path. And then, we talked a lot about making sure that you're prepared in self-defense. Go check out Bruiser Arms. Bruiser Arms is Jocko Willink, Leif Babin, and JP Dinnell, and they have an organization. They got a company called Bruiser Arms where they put together custom gear packages that help you be able to defend yourself and your home in the ways that you see fit. Also, they do custom training. So get on there, go check out @Bruiser Arms, get yourself trained, get yourself geared up and ready to go. And now that you got all that done, you want to look the part. So go to originusa.com. Go get some of the best American gear on the planet, from seed to shirt. Every part of the supply chain is here in the United States. It's tariff-free because it all comes from us. And so you're going to want to get your Moab pants. You're going to want to get that new flannel shirt that's coming out. There's a light blue shirt that got a lot of attention here over the last couple of months. It's about to hit the production line. Go ahead and get yourself one of those light blue RTX hoodies. You know you want it. And then go check out JockoFuel.com. When you do that, go check out JPPOD20 at JockoFuel.com. Use that as your coupon code. It'll save you 20% on everything that you get over there. They have been a phenomenal partner in the podcast from day one, both Origin and Jocko Fuel, just keeping Americans on the grind, doing the things that we do best, fighting for our freedoms, and making sure that, you know what, after those guys have fought for our freedoms, after the veterans have come home, that they're supported and that they've got something worse coming home too. So huge thanks to all those guys who have been just keeping the American worker burning and churning. JP, you got any final thoughts for us?
Yep. So Muster 24 almost sold out in Nashville. Check-in, registration, meet and greet on Wednesday the 22nd. And then the muster is going to be on Thursday the 23rd and the 24th. And then we will be in
Is that
San Diego.
April or is that May?
Yeah, April. Did I say
April.
Oh, yeah, April. Sorry.
Yep. Sweet.
And then we will be at Muster 25 in San Diego, July 8th, Wednesday, July 8th is registration, meet and greet, and then the muster is on Thursday the 9th and Friday the 10th. And we will also be having a pre-muster FTX. So instead of it being after, it's before for both of those as well. The day before, so that Tuesday in Nashville and that Tuesday in San Diego. And then in September, we will have FTX 20 down in Austin, Texas, on the outskirts of Austin. Check-in, registration, kickoff classroom is on Sunday the 20th, and then the FTX is on Monday the 21st and Tuesday the 22nd. And then we will be up in the Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Idaho area for an event called the Red and Blue Foundation is hosting a roll call with Danny and I and possibly Cody. And that is the first week of October. So we're not sure the dates yet, but that's going to be somewhere between October 5th and the 9th. And that is going to be 2 full days of training, similar to muster, but geared specifically for first responders. Anybody can come, but it will be focused on first responders. And the Red and Blue Foundation that had Cody and I up there last month is hosting that, and that's going to be absolutely incredible. And then the following week for Muster 26, we will be in Denver, Colorado. The pre-muster FTX will be on Tuesday the 13th. Registration, meet and greet on Wednesday the 14th, and then the muster will be on Thursday the 15th. And then Friday the 16th. So good amount of events coming up. Obviously, the council sold out. There's a battlefield come up as well. Like Lucas said, go to echelonfront.com, check it out. Come hang out with us, and looking forward to seeing people at those events. My closing thoughts, I'm going to steal it from Thomas and Jonathan and Kevin. Nobody patents the first iteration. So keep putting in the work. Make adaptations, make changes, but more importantly than anything else is you have to put in the work. You have to keep working on something, revising it. Don't get complacent. Don't get frustrated. Don't blame other people. Take ownership and do what you need in your life to succeed and to provide things of value. Provide things of value to your family, to your church, your friends, and the people around you. Help other people win, and you'll win yourself. So I hope this episode has been a reminder to go do the work that's needed, to put in the effort, to build your legacy, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 128.